For decades, index fund investing was the simplest, most boring way to build wealth. Buy a fund that tracks the market, leave it alone, and let compounding quietly do the heavy lifting. That's the kind of accepted blueprint to long-term investing. But today, that simplicity is starting to slip away. What started as a strategy of broad market diversification has kind of taken a bit of a hard turn, and index investing is shifting into something very different, which honestly is not great news for new investors. Here is what's going on. When Jack Bogle and Vanguard launched the first index fund back in 1970s, the whole point was to give investors the market return. Nothing more, nothing less. And it was revolutionary. Instead of trying to beat the market, which, let's be honest, data shows that 90% of active managers fail to do consistently, you could just buy a fund that owned all the big companies in the S&P 500, pay next to nothing in fees, and then forget about it. That was the beauty of it. You didn't need to be clever. You just needed to stay invested, which is exactly why they worked so well. But fast forward to today, and the index fund label doesn't always mean what people think it means. In a more popular and competitive world of index fund investing, it's slowly changing to a battle of assets under management, or in simpler words, who can gather the most money, which is probably not for the better. There are now over 3 million indices in existence, and more than 10,000 index funds and ETFs worldwide. And you might be wondering, why would passive investors possibly need that many passive funds? Well, the truth is that they don't. This is just marketing and active management in disguise. And the reason why is obvious. Index providers, the people who make these things, get paid by fund providers to create indices. Fund providers in turn want to launch products they think will sell, so they pay index providers to design indices that they think investors will buy. This is why you see indices for electric vehicles, AI, space, and so on. They all have a buzz factor to them. The catch is that index providers can write whatever rules they want, and fund providers can slap them onto a product that's technically an index fund and technically passive, even though in reality, there is nothing passive about it. This academic paper digs into this dynamic in more detail, and it's well worth a read if you're curious to learn more. At the same time, the number of holdings in the average index fund is shrinking. Instead of investing in hundreds of different stocks, now some ETFs are betting on one single stock or one single economic niche. Back in 1998, the average index fund held around 500 different stocks. Fast forward to 2025, and that number's dropped to just 123. That's a lot less diversification and a lot more concentration risk. And it's not just that it's fewer stocks, it's that actually fund managers are adding substantially more risk to these funds. For example, today there are over 100 leveraged single stock ETFs in the US alone, with many seeing billions in daily trading volume. These products can expose investors, especially newer ones, to risks they may not even know they're taking. For a bit of background, leveraged ETFs aim to multiply the daily returns of a market index. So you might see ones that try to give you 2 times or even 3 times the daily movement. This sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? Who wouldn't want to double or triple their gains when the market is rising? But here's the catch. These leveraged ETFs are built to track daily movements. That daily part is key. If you only hold one of these ETFs for a day or two, it usually does what it says on the tin. For example, if the FTSE 100 goes up 1% today, a 3 times leverage ETF should go up around 3%, which is great. But the problem starts when you hold them for months or even years. Thanks to things like compounding and market ups and downs, things can get a bit messy. Here is a quick example. On day 1, the index goes up 5%, so your 3 times ETF shoots up 15%. On day 2, the index drops 5%, and you might think your ETF will just fall 15% and cancel it out. But it doesn't quite work like that. Because of how percentage work, a 5% drop from the new index level is a bigger actual drop in pounds than the 5% rise was before, because it's calculated on a larger amount after day 1. And if the market keeps bouncing around, it can really chip away at your returns over time. Another thing people often miss, these ETFs tend to have higher fees than traditional ETFs. So even when things go well, you might not keep as much of the gains as you might expect. So the bottom line is that these kinds of ETFs are really meant for short-term traders, people looking to make quick moves and who are able to watch the market closely. They are definitely not ideal for the average passive index investor. Of course, there are many other types of index funds that make index investing even more complicated. For example, inverse ETFs, which are designed to move opposite to the index they track, are another type of product that might appeal to the average investor, simply because they're labeled as an ETF. Then you've also got the wave of products that don't really track a broad market at all. Instead, they track these narrow specialized themes. These are often called thematic ETFs, things like clean energy or cybersecurity funds and many other niche themes. To give you a real example, this Global X Robotics and AI ETF doesn't track some long-established market index. It tracks a custom-made list of companies that someone decided fit the AI and robotics theme. Now, as a strategic product, I can certainly see the use case for thematic ETFs, but I would argue they're more for the active investor. Someone who has their finger on the pulse of the stock market, rather than the passive investor who simply wants to sit back, buy their investments every month and set it and forget it. The thing is that although some of these themes might genuinely have long-term potential, many thematic ETFs are launched right when excitement around the trend is peaking, when valuations are already inflated and media buzz is at its loudest. By the time the average investor hears about it and jumps in, the easy gains have already been made. What usually follows is disappointment, volatility, and sometimes years of underperformance. These ETFs are also very concentrated, volatile, and cyclical, often built around a small niche group of companies. And they often come with a compelling story and slick marketing, but that doesn't always translate into solid returns. Then you've got the so-called smart beta products. These aren't broad market trackers. They are tilted towards factors like value, momentum, or quality. They're sold as rules-based and passive, but they're really just another form of active decision making, because someone is deciding which factors to tilt towards. And finally, the most questionable category, completely bespoke indices. These are basically lists of companies created by an asset manager, wrapped up with a catchy name like the Future Tech Leaders Index. It sounds like you're investing passively, but in reality, you're buying into someone's hand-picked basket disguised as an index. What you can start to gather from all of this is that index or ETF investing no longer necessarily means passive investing. With the addition of leveraged, inverse, and other specialty products, the landscape is changing completely. Now, this isn't necessarily bad, because we have access to many more products than we could invest in before. But with more options comes more complexity and a much greater chance to make mistakes. This brings us to the second part of the problem with index fund investing nowadays, how they're being used. Even if you pick a passive index fund like a total market fund or an S&P 500 fund, the problem is that most people don't stop there. They might start with a broad market fund, then add a small cap fund, a growth fund, a clean energy fund, and so on. At that point, what are you doing? You're actively picking parts of the market you think will do well in the future, which is exactly what a passive investor should not be doing. True passive investing is very simple. You buy the whole market, you hold it for the long term, and you accept whatever returns the market gives you. That's it. But with so many index funds available today, people get confused. They think passive equals index fund, when in reality, most index funds are not truly passive. And here is the deeper issue. Incentives in the financial industry actively encourage this behavior. Fund providers and index creators make money by creating new funds and products that people will buy. And what sells? Well, things that sound exciting. Things with a story like clean energy, AI, or space exploration. Even though from a passive investing standpoint, these products make little sense. If this continues, and it likely will because the industry is profit driven, more investors who think they're passive will actually be active without realizing it. That means their returns are likely to be far lower than what true passive investing would have given them. To illustrate this point, this chart by JP Morgan shows that the average retail investor earns just 3.6% a year compared to the S&P 500, which massively outperforms. So research consistently shows that the average investor underperforms the fund they invest in, often because they jump in and out at the wrong times and overcomplicate their portfolios. And with more and more index funds and ETFs being launched, there is a real risk that investing will get even more complicated when it shouldn't be. And this shift matters because the magic of indexing has always come from being simple and boring. But the more specialized indexing becomes, the more temptation creeps in. Suddenly investors are overcomplicating their portfolios, paying higher fees for funds that may not deliver, and worst of all, losing discipline. So the next time you see a flashy new index fund with a catchy name, pause for a second and ask yourself, is this a genuine market index or is it just a marketing gimmick that looks passive on the surface? Because truth is, boring old index funds are still the ones that quietly do the job. But now the question is index fund investing really the best strategy? Or are there other strategies worth considering? Well, watch this next video to find out. See you there.